On the Iron Range, I think this is what they call this. People have been going like this since early this evening. They don't show any signs of stopping. And the candidate who they've waited so long to hear is waiting for them to stop playing with the balloons so he can say a few words. There are 3 different bands here. Perpich is, I think, now asking for some quiet, if that's possible, to hear what he has to say. Well, wrong again. Looks like there he is. Here we go.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Things are starting to die down a little.
This, of course, is a very happy moment for me and my family and all of you, I'm sure. I appreciate, and words really can't express the appreciation that we have for all of you and for all the many people who have worked very, very hard in the last 7 months. This has been, without you, very obviously, it wouldn't be possible. And one person that has worked just day and night from the first day, and one that there's so many people that we want to acknowledge, so many people that work so very, very hard, but one that really, right from the first day, just worked day and night, really hasn't even seen his family, and Eldon Brewston. Come on, Eldon. We have, this evening, and at this very moment, we have proven that we can win a campaign and win an election. In the very near future, we're going to prove that Rudy Perpich is a governor of the entire state of Minnesota, and that he's not just a regional governor. We understand, and all of us in Minnesota understand, that if the farmers aren't buying tractors, if the unemployed in the cities aren't buying automobiles, that our iron workers will be out of work. We're all tied in together. And this is why we're going to start out immediately working together as a state to make sure that we can get things turned around. And that's going to be... And thirdly, we're going to prove within a couple of years that this is going to be the best administration of any state of the 50 states in the United States. That's all. Is have a gigantic celebration, Iron Range style, here this evening into the morning.
A little bit amusing that now they're going to start celebrating. My voice is just about to go, I think. As you can see, a jubilant crowd. They've been like this all night. It is electric, very, very exciting. And Rudy Perpich just accepting victory. I don't think he claimed it. He just sort of accepted it and talked about what he plans to do in the time to come. I think he's probably now going to spend some more time here. He is not one of those people who is hiding out tonight. And I'm live in Virginia, Minnesota on the volleyball court of the Sawmill Lounge. My name's Karen Boris. I'm here with producer Keith Brown, and we're live in Virginia, Minnesota.
If the Iron Range has been an economically depressed area low these many months, it certainly is not spiritually so. Now at this moment, Jim Gately has been covering our Wisconsin election results from Milwaukee. Jim?
Hello, David. We have some further results on the Wisconsin governor's race, if we can go to that board now. Anthony Earl, the Democrat, beating Terry Kohler, the Republican, by a better than 2-to-1 margin. with 20% of the vote in, and we will have it for you in a few minutes, Mr. Earle's victory speech. Now let's go to the Wisconsin Senate race, where William Proxmire is winning easily with 72% of the vote. That means there'll be more Golden Fleece Awards, and he's easily beating Scott McCallum, a Republican state senator, 32 years old. He has got, what everybody tells me, a good future ahead of him, but not tonight. However, you tell Karen Burrows they may be celebrating in the volleyball court of the Sawmill Lounge in Virginia. Well, they were also celebrating far south of there across the St. Croix in Madison, where Wisconsin has a new Democratic governor. Let's go now to Madison and the new Democratic governor.
7 weeks ago to this day in this place, I said that I was 3 times blessed, and I meant it. When I said I was 3 times blessed, I first of all said I was blessed by the family to which I was born, my mom and dad, my brother and my sister-in-law, and I cannot think of a greater pleasure I could have than to celebrate this victory with my dad, my mother, and it's my mother's birthday tonight.
You got your hat, right?
The second blessing I had was to marry well. And I married extraordinarily well. And my wife, Sheila, and my daughters, our daughters, Julia, Ann, Mary, and Catherine are all here, and I'm delighted they can be here with us tonight, too. And there's a third blessing, and that is friends. And you don't get to choose family, and you don't, well, you do get to choose part of the family. But you get to choose your friends, and my gosh, I cannot think of a person who could have better friends than the people who have been friends to the Earl Flynn campaign, beginning with Jim and Mary Kay Flynn, on down to all of you here this evening, and bless you all. Thank you very, very much.
Wisconsin has about 4.5 million citizens, and those citizens can look forward to one thing under newly elected Governor Earle. He says that the state deficit is so large that he must almost certainly have to increase income taxes. So taxes will almost certainly be going up in Wisconsin. And Pat, it's nice to see them celebrating in Madison. I know it wasn't because the Badgers beat the Gophers in some game, but I guess we know that could happen pretty soon.
If I know you, you've had your eye on that game tonight.
Who won?
Thank you very much, Jim.
You want to know who won? That's the cue for me to remind the folks that shortly, in a few moments, we'll get down to Mark Rosen and the Sports Center.
We will have sports tonight, do not worry. We do want to go, though, before we go to sports, to some of the totals that are coming in on these Hennepin County returns. Let's go first to the Hennepin County Sheriff race. As you can see, the incumbent, Don Omott, with 64% of the vote over Charlie Stenvig with 36%. That's with 39% of the precincts reporting. Let's go now to the Hennepin Commissioner in District 1. As you can see, 61% for Jeff Sparts, the incumbent there. That's with 84% of the precincts reporting, 57 of 68 precincts now in. In District 2, interesting, Bruce Williamson, 77% over Johnson, 23%. That was not Randy Johnson in that photograph, though. Let's point that out. In District 4, Hennepin County Commissioner John Darris, looks like an easy victory here with 78%, 27% of the precincts reporting, 9,000, a little over 9,000 votes for John Darris. In District 5, Bud Robb, the incumbent, 63%, 694 votes, but interesting, only 2% of the precincts reporting in District 5 at this point. In District 7, this is the hotly contested one. As you can see, it is very close. It looks, though, that right now Mark Andrew with 52% over incumbent Nancy Olcon, 48%. We will be talking to both of them a bit later. That's with 66% of the precincts now reporting, though. And we are, let's just point out, we are going to wait, though, till we hear from all of St. Louis Park, because as you know, Skip, that's where Nancy Olcon is traditionally very strong, was in the primary, made the difference there.
Good race. All right, we will join Mark Rosen in the Sports Center if we can rouse him in just a moment.
The ultimate hope for solving the energy problem is the creativity of the American mind. At Amoco, scientists are seeking ways to turn algae into gasoline for a form of energy that can be grown in abundant supply right here in America. It's one way Amoco is working to provide energy for America in the year 2000 and beyond.
Yesterday, Mom comes over and says the house smells. She tells Jason he'll get gopher teeth if he keeps sucking his thumb. Then she says, "You look terrible. You should relax." I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. So last night, I called my sister in Tulsa and cried for 5 minutes and laughed for 5 minutes.
A long-distance visit with someone special. It costs so little. 10 minutes almost anywhere in the country, under $3.
It's nice to get away for a while.
Computers for the home are really popular items. But which one's right for you? These? Powerful but very expensive. These? You want more software cartridges. This? Can't expand or program it right away. Which leaves this, the home computer from Texas Instruments. Memory, programmability, expandability, price. Plus a full range of software cartridges. This is the one.
The home computer from Texas Instruments.
Here's a picture of my wife, except it's out of focus.
Nice.
And here's the Grand Canyon, but the exposure's all wrong. I don't know what happened to this one.
Tired of weak excuses? How about great photographs? With the Ricoh AF2, just push a button and it does it all. Loading, focusing, everything. There's even a built-in flash.
Now this magnificent portrait is of my wife. And this incredible sunset.
The Ricoh AF2. It does the work, you get the credit.
We've been listening to the election projections and the outcome for the last couple of hours. We thought we'd turn to Mark and find out about the projections for the football strike.
Well, I'm going to project that it's going to be over by next Monday. No real reason other than a gut feeling. You know, we had some reports earlier tonight, Debbie, about a possible optimistic look to the end of the strike. But there seems to be at least one reporter in New York who is creating his own news, and the players are pretty upset about it, that there seems to be some optimism. And in fact, Vikings player rep Dave Huffman in New York, along with the other league's player reps, told me this evening that, contrary to an Associated Press report earlier today, that no, the union has not made major concessions to the club owners. Huffman adding that the Management Council has made no real effort to negotiate. Both sides will sit down again tomorrow morning. Huffman said the owners will be satisfied with an 11-game schedule, which would also be acceptable to the players and perhaps a long enough season for the public to swallow. Now, with that in mind, the new deadline for a settlement appears to be next Monday. And you know, despite all the problems at the negotiating table, I have the feeling after talking with Dave tonight that somehow there's going to be a settlement by next Monday and we'll have ourselves an 11-game NFL season, like it or not. Well, in a sloppily played game, the North Stars hung on to beat Hartford 7-6. Steve Payne scored twice for the Stars, who nearly blew a 6-2 lead. Don Beaupre was in goal for Minnesota and also picked up an assist on Dino Ciccarelli's goal. The Stars will play in Montreal on Thursday night. Now, elsewhere in the NHL, one big game, Pittsburgh beat the Islanders 3-1. That's the first time the Stanley Cup champs have lost at home in 30 games. Montreal beat New Jersey 5-4. The University of Minnesota and the University of Minnesota Duluth rarely get together in sports, with the exception of hockey. UMD not only feels they belong on the same rink as the Gophers, right now they feel they can beat any college team in the country, including Minnesota. And that's why Gopher coach Brad Butow is working his team especially hard in preparation for this weekend's games at UMD. The Bulldogs off to a great start, leading the WCHA with a 4-0 record. Meanwhile, the Gophers have been concentrating on defense at practice. Senior Butsy Erickson is one of a number of sharpshooters on the Gophers who have practically scored at will this year. Erickson said when a team has an offense as explosive as Minnesota's, there is a tendency to relax on the other end of the ice.
You know, when they start going in for you pretty easy, then you have a tendency to start getting a little more offensive. But we have a young team, and this is a tough league to play, and it's a tough league to play defense, and everybody can score goals.
Darryl Mitchell admits it's been a strange feeling walking back into Williams Arena just 7 months after leading the Gophers to the Big Ten basketball championship. Mitchell has been working out with the Gophers and will continue to do so until next week when he reports to the Maine Lumberjacks of the Continental League, the farm club of the Boston Celtics. Mitchell had an impressive camp with Boston despite the fact that no one drafted him. In fact, Boston has said Mitchell would be the first player called up. Darryl is still not quite sure why he wasn't drafted.
Yes, I like to say that's just life, you know. I mean, those things happen, but it was mysterious, and you just can't help it. I couldn't. There's nothing I could do about it really, but continue to hold my head up high and keep right on going. You know, I realized that that's not the only thing I can do in life.
And that mustache looks pretty nice there, Darryl. Now, by the way, the Gophers will have their first inter-squad game tomorrow night at 7:30 at Wayzata High School. The following baseball stories read like a replay. John McNamara is a manager once again. This time he'll run the California Angels, succeeding Gene Mauch. This will be McNamara's 4th managerial job. Pete Rose signed another $1 million contract with the Philadelphia Phillies, and Charlie Finley called the outgoing baseball commissioner the nation's idiot. Bowie Kuhn and the former Oakland A's owner have had their share of run-ins over the years, and Finley also said Kuhn's dismissal was, quote, the greatest thing that has ever happened to the game. Washington's loss was Pittsburgh's gain. The Associated Press named Pittsburgh the top college football team in the nation this week. Formerly top-ranked Washington dropped 10th to 10th after a weekend loss to Stanford. The only Big Ten team in the top 20 was 15th ranked Michigan. So, Debbie, I think we're about to enter day 44 of the NFL strike right now.
Well, that football strike seems to be changing as much as some of the election outcome.
Absolutely.
Maybe we should keep you here overnight for updates.
Not a real good idea.
You don't like that idea, huh? Okay. We'll be back with more Election 1982 coverage right after this.
Atari, Sony, RCA, Howard Miller, all free at TCF. That's what Twin City Federal is offering now with a new TCF Premium Investor Certificate. It pays you high money market rates with a choice of 3.5, 5, and 10-year terms. And that rate is guaranteed and fully insured to $100,000. Big gifts free, only with a TCF Premium Investor Certificate. An outstanding offer from Twin City Federal.
One day, Ruth Wilson accidentally bumped into an old friend. Now, no one was hurt, and Ruth's MSI agent Wes Johnson was on the spot, taking care of everything, even before the police arrived. Now, granted, not everybody has an accident with their insurance agent, so this story's a bit out of the ordinary. But the service isn't, because at MSI Insurance, we're people helping people, and agents like Wes Johnson prove it every day.
Hi, I'm Steve Doyle.
And I'm Pat Brown. On the next PM magazine.
You couldn't be with better people than the Love Boat people. They do it first class.
Climb aboard the Love Boat.
It's like a dream. It's like a dream for us.
For an exciting star-studded cruise.
Then journey into the past to Pine City for a fascinating French voyageur's rendezvous on the next PM magazine on WCCO television.
WCCO Television, in cooperation with Control Data, present Computer Vote Total.
Focusing for the moment on the Senate race between Senator David Durenberger and his DFL challenger Mark Dayton, which CBS at 22 minutes after 8 declared in favor of Senator Durenberger. He has closed the gap 51 to 48%, mindful, of course, that only 30% of Minnesota's 4,067 precincts are reporting. 51% for Mark Dayton, 48% for David Durenberger.
Which is almost the exact reverse of what CBS is predicting the outcome will be. CBS predicting that the outcome will be 51% for Durenberger and 49% for Mark Dayton. That is obviously still too close for us to call. We're going to sit here until we get a few more returns in. That is one of those things that literally could be 3, 4 o'clock in the morning before we know, and we're willing to be absolutely positively sure about that. But there are some other interesting things. In the Senate race, Mark Dayton's been the underdog. We have an analysis of what has happened thus far. In northeastern Minnesota, that's a long-time DFL stronghold. The Dayton campaign said it needed 63% in northeastern Minnesota to win the election. The early returns show Mark Dayton with 62%, just 1% away from what he said he needed. Dayton needs at least 50% of the vote in the Twin Cities metropolitan area, according to his own campaign. And the early figures right now show 55% there. Dayton with a little more than he seems to need right there. In southeastern Minnesota, a Republican stronghold basically, Mark Dayton said he needed 44% to win statewide. Our returns from sample precincts showing him with 44%, exactly what he said he had to have. In western Minnesota, Dayton sources say Dayton needs 48% of the vote. Our early returns show him down there, 43%. Overall, he is down just slightly. And that's really all it would take for him to lose the election, is to be down just slightly. That's what CBS is predicting, 51 to 49. But as I said, that one's still too close for us to call anyway. We have legislative results. Oh, do we have legislative results? And if we start those now, we'll go through a litany of them. Early figures, by and large, from throughout Hennepin and Ramsey County. This is District 42, with the independent Republican out ahead of the independent challenger Hart by 62 to 38%, just 7 precincts in there. In Ramsey District 67, the DFL are out ahead there, 72 to 28%, 58% of the vote in, still too close on that one. 62, Hennepin County, 23 of 29 precincts in. Petty is doing very well there, and unless those last 6 precincts bring about a major change, should win. In the next precinct. Okay. All right, Ann Rubenstein is standing by right now. Let's come back to those legislative returns later. Annie?
Skip, we haven't seen Senator Durenberger all evening. He has been and is playing it low key this evening because, as you mentioned, the closeness of this race. We do understand that he's making his way into the room here. We should be here within a few minutes. He's making stops along the way. After the CBS News projected him as the winner earlier this evening, Senator Durenberger thought there were too few precincts in, too small a percentage of vote in to come down and say anything, so he is playing it low-key until more of a percentage is in and we know more. It doesn't want it to turn out to be a Dewey defeats Truman type situation here. Back to you.
Hello, what about the crowd, Ann? Are they upbeat at all at this point? Do they think that they've got it won?
Skip, repeat, I can barely hear you. Barely hear myself.
Do the people in that hall think that Durenberger has it won, despite the fact he isn't willing to claim victory right now?
His supporters are very excited and have been throughout the entire evening, and they have throughout the evening been optimistic and still are, even though it's a close race. Okay. He's being more reserved about it.
Fine, Ann. Let us know when he gets there and we'll come back to you. We have more legislative returns in, and let's go to those now. In 62B, Hennepin County, this is a final. Brandel has won re-election. That was not unexpected. In the next precinct or district, we seem to be having some problem running through those. 62A right now, the Lake Harriet area of Minneapolis, again a final. Ken Nelson, this was a tough race for him, and that could have gone either way, but he has won re-election, DFLer Ken Nelson. Senate District 64, Ramsey County, 22 of 40 precincts in. That one could go either way, but Ron Seeloff, the independent Republican, is still ahead at this point. With most of the vote in, 82% now in the central St. Paul area, Don Moe is leading handily there, 76% for Moe. 63B in Ramsey County, the Midway area there, Ann Winia, 71%. That is a final. She is reelected. 95% of the vote in Senate District 60, South Minneapolis, Linda Berglund doing very well, and she'll go back to the legislature. 61A, Hennepin County, most of the vote in there, and this is a tough race, but wow, Donna Peterson, 70% to 30 over Jack Davies. And at this point, I would think that was somewhat unexpected. The president of the Senate,
28 years, I believe, 27
yeah, has been in office for years, chairman of the Judiciary Committee in the Senate for years. Jack Davies will not be returning to the legislature, barring a minor miracle at this point.
He is the president of the Senate,
He is the president of the Senate, and that opens some other interesting possibilities if Davies does not come back as to who will take that chair. In 54, the Little Canada, North St. Paul area, Jerry Hughes having absolutely no problem with only 22% of the vote in at this point. 67B in Ramsey County, the Pig's Eye section, John Tomlinson, the man who comes up with all those tax formulas that almost no one can understand but John, and he'll probably be back again. DeLong doing very well in the Kenwood area of Minneapolis with 11 out of 12 precincts. She'll be back. In 53, Ramsey County, just 2 of 28 precincts in. Much too early to tell how this one's going to turn out. Fritz Canuck is ahead just slightly there, but it's hard to tell. 46, Hennepin County, 33% of the vote. That one, well, right now the DFLer's doing awfully well. 58A, 95% of the vote in. This is Northeast Minneapolis, and John Sarna's been there for a long time. He'll be there again representing that district. 66A, Ramsey County, 83% of the vote in. Tom Ostoff doing very well. 57, 98% of the vote in. Carl Croning will be back. The DFLer from North Minneapolis will be back at the legislature again. Only 2 of 16 precincts in coming from Hopkins right now. That Miller-Olson race is still much too close to call with those scattered returns. 67A, 90% of the vote in. Kelly doing well, but that is not particularly unexpected. Randy Kelly will be back. 54B, not too many of the votes counted thus far. Dick Kostoritz is out ahead, 68% for the DFLer. In 41B, 25% of the vote in. Logan with 40%, but Kathy Blatz has 60%. She'll probably be returned. In 40B, Hennepin County, just 15% in there. That one could go either way at this point. 42A, 30% of the vote, the Eden Prairie area. Caswell, 22%. Not very well for there. Things could change with just 4 precincts reporting. In 41, the Bloomington area. Weiser with 46%. Bollinger with 54%. That one could still go either way. And that's pretty much our list at this point, David. I suspect most of those legislative races will be wrapping up within the next hour, and then who knows till we get all those out-state results.
Strange, in the metropolitan county area where we have complete races in some of the districts and no more than 10 and 15% in the other voting. I wonder if there's a voting mechanism there that is holding things up in some of those situations, or does that mean that the turnout was heavier?
It can mean that the turnout was just so heavy that you know, if you have 300 people standing in line at 8 o'clock, those 300 people have to be allowed to vote, which may mean that it was 9:15, 9:30 before they started even thinking about counting results.
They do use different systems as well to count their votes. And so it's the case in St. Louis Park. They're on a computer system.
So far, no surprises, and except perhaps with the exception of Jack Davies, who appears to be
that margin, I guess, surprises me a little bit there. It doesn't really surprise me that Jack has lost, but the margin of defeat does.
The 4 amendments on the ballot, Pat.
We do have some returns coming in now, Dave, if we can take a look at those. On amendment number 1, which would establish an appeals court with 7% of the precincts reporting. As you can see, overwhelmingly, those who voted for the amendments voted yes for that one. So it looks as if that may pass indeed. Tomorrow we'll find out. Amendment number 2, highway bonding, 7% of the precincts reporting. Again, an overwhelming yes vote among those who voted for the amendments. Again, if you did not vote, you cast a no vote. Amendment number 4, rail improvements, with 7% of the precincts reporting, another overwhelming yes vote in that particular case. And amendment number 3, which was the controversial one, parimutuel betting, with 7% of the precincts in, another overwhelming yes vote. It's interesting because these amendments during this election have generated an awful lot of interest, and they don't normally.
I'm still confused, though, about what it takes for those to pass.
Well, apparently, Skip, people who do not vote for the amendments, in effect, cast a no vote. So it depends on how many people voted.
So it's a majority of those voting.
So really, it's a majority of those voting. And that sort of has to overwhelm those who didn't vote, because that, again, is a no vote.
As Pat pointed out a moment ago, and it can be 2 and 3 days before the final vote is in on that sort of thing. Pat and Skip, we have not heard from our rural commentator, Jack Pine Bob, who is no longer rural. He's a member of the northern suburban sect of the Twin Cities. He's with Dave Nimmer at the VFW 363 Lodge in Fridley. David?
Well, David, the last time we were at the VFW Club, it was kind of quiet, and things have picked up a bit since then, which is probably directly related to the fact that the bar has now been open for 3 hours. It's also related to the fact that there's some enthusiasm for one of those amendments you've been talking about, parimutuel betting. As a matter of fact, there's some interest in the land across the street from the VFW Club, possible site for a horse track. And I'm wondering whether there's any interest in Ely.
Oh, yeah.
Mutual betting.
Oh, you bet, Dave. We're looking forward there to, we want to track in Ely. In fact, we're all set. We have a racing commission in Ely. It's all set to go. What we're going to do, we're going to use a football field, and we got one horse. Toivo Watnan out there has got a horse. They used to race out there in the logging days, used to race on Basswood Lake. And we got this one horse, and it's going to be the only track in the world that you can't lose on. There's only one horse that, you know, you place your money to bet, to win, and you can't lose. We're only going to pay off 1/2 to 1, but until we get some more money, get more, more horses.
But Gary, aren't you interested and a little bit concerned about corruption? I mean, that's the kind of argument that we see here. You get racing, you're going to get corruption.
No, I'm not worried about it. See, the media has been deprived in this state. You take like Chicago, New York, and those places, the news media always covers these things like what politician is taking racetrack bribes, who's involved with the mafia, all that good stuff. And we don't have that in Minnesota. You know, maybe we can bring some of that back, and the media's got something to cover out here. All this neat corruption going on.
Well, one of the things we've got to cover out here is a little bit of enthusiasm for Rudy Perpich. There happens to be a good deal of sentiment down here for the governor-elect in the state of Minnesota. And a couple of minutes ago, there was a good deal of song. And we're going to try to persuade a few of these reticent souls to sing and share the music with you. They're led by a 68-year-old Dusty Lane on a fiddle. And Dusty, come on, hit it, baby.
Cheer, folks, cheer, the Democrats are here. Cheer, folks, cheer, the Democrats are here. Cheer, folks, cheer, the Democrats are here. It'll be a hot time in the old town tonight.
Well, Dave, we sure would like to stick around and hear some more of that wonderful song. We have been told now that Senator Durenberger has shown up at his headquarters at the Thunderbird Motel. There he is with Ann Rubenstein. Ann?
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Senator, for joining us. How are you reading the votes that have come in so far this evening?
Well, you know, I'm optimistic about the vote count and the trend in the voting. And our sample precincts show that we're doing what we need to do to win.
Has anything surprised you? Has anything been unexpected as far as you're concerned or as far as your tallies went?
No, nothing. There's nothing special in terms of a surprise. I think the large voter turnout in the state is a pleasant surprise to all of us. And it's clearly an expression of the need for everybody in the state to have something to say.
Large voter turnout traditionally has been a good sign for Democrats.
Yes, but in Minnesota today, I think it's another kind of an expression. It's some kind of a feeling that government isn't working as well as it ought to, and it sure could be improved on. And there are a whole lot of people out there that feel that you know, we've started to improve it in the right way, and some others that are feeling a certain amount of pain or frustration or anxiety about it, and they're expressing that in their way. And
do you think it's over yet?
Well, no. Obviously, it's never over until all the votes have been counted and all of the candidates have made their decisions and their statements.
Thank you very much, Senator.
Thank you.
Back to you, Dave.
And keep the senator there for just a moment, and we'll call up these returns. Let's see how he's doing in his race against Mark Dayton, if we may. Sharon, please. Well, here we have Ann. You still with us? No, I guess she's not. 36% of the votes in. He's gaining, Skipper. He's almost. It's a dead race now, 50% to 49%. And if the senator continues at this rate, I would think perhaps the CBS prediction or forecast will be borne out. He will indeed overtake Mark Dayton.
It certainly is looking more like that as each hour goes by.
If that rate continues, right. We'll be back with more of Computer Vote Total in just a moment.
Pointe-à-France, sold out. Lake Point, sold out. And we reminded you, the Homes of Winslow House, with their beautiful view of the emerging riverfront, the Minneapolis skyline, historic St. Anthony, and nearby shopping and dining, would go away too. Now that day is near. Fewer than 10 of these superb homes remain. Soon, the opportunity to live at Winslow House, like the green of summer, will be gone forever.
Trust no one and believe only half of what you see, because nothing is as it appears and nobody is who they seem to be. In Alistair McLean's Breakheart Pass, all that lies between the men of an isolated army outpost and death are the people on this train. But are the people on this train on a mission of mercy or murder? Charles Bronson stars in Breakheart Pass, Friday night at 11 on WCCO Television. WCCO Television, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
No matter how hard they might try, it does appear now as though the Democrats will not control the U.S. Senate when all is said and done in this election. Let's update that situation now with a report from Dan Rather and Bob Schieffer in New York.
Well, that noise you perhaps heard, the popping of champagne corks in and around the White House, because in California, in the Senate race out there, our CBS News estimate is that Pete Wilson, the mayor of San Diego, not only has beaten Jerry Brown, the retiring Democratic governor of California, but perhaps has beaten him by a wider margin than was generally thought might be the case. Pete Wilson, on the basis of our CBS News estimate, I emphasize this is with votes actually in and counted in sample precincts, Pete Wilson will be the new Republican governor of California. Remember, this is a hold-on for the Republicans. S.I. Hayakawa retiring from that Senate seat. Pete Wilson managed to make the campaign a referendum on Jerry Brown, rather than having it be a referendum on Reaganomics, as Jerry Brown tried to make it. Jerry Brown had a lot of negatives, an anti-Brown vote out there, the Brown nuclear freeze ad, now famous or notorious depending on your point of view, television ad backfired. The issues broke badly for Brown, his handling of the Medfly scare in California, a crime, his alleged anti-freeway stance, the fact that Jerry Brown was seen to many Californians always to be running for president, all that built up. Pete Wilson, a fine, articulate Republican candidate out there, was on the defensive for a while. Brown had momentum going for him, but when it's all said and done, it looks like not only has Pete Wilson won in California, but his lead looks longer than your average well rope out there, and he seems to have won that race easily. No, we do not have figures that we can call on yet in the important California gubernatorial race. Now, the White House, of course, has been watching results such as this in these last couple of hours and taking some not only solace from it, relief, and I think some joy from those races. Jim Baker, who is the President's Chief of Staff, is with Walter Cronkite now in our Washington studios. Walter and Jim Baker, good evening.
Okay, an update on the all-important Senate race in California, and that is a surprising margin for Pete Wilson over Jerry Brown. I would guess we can kiss Jerry Brown's political career goodbye after that one. Let's take a look at the Minnesota analysis right now on the U.S. Senate race, and it is interesting. We do have some new figures. Mark Dayton thought he needed 63% of the votes in northeastern Minnesota to win. He's down to 58% right now, at least with the votes that are in at this point. In the Twin Cities area, Dayton's people said he needed 50%. He has 54. He's a bit ahead right there. In southeastern Minnesota, Dayton needed 44, they told us. He has 41 right now. And in western Minnesota, the Dayton people thought he needed 48% to win. He has 44. That would account for the fact that Mark Dayton is indeed going down in his margin right now, and it is virtually a dead heat. And that, again, would bear out the CBS projections if it all keeps going the way it's going, David.
How about some reaction at the Sheraton Ritz Hotel? Alan Cox talked with Mark Dayton a few minutes ago.
Mark, at first the network said you'd lose by 6 points, then CBS said you'd lose by 2 points, and we still haven't had any returns yet from the Iron Range. What does that make you feel about the network projections?
Well, I'm glad to see that it's getting narrower, and I think it's an early part of a very long evening. As you say, we're still waiting to see what the results will be coming in from the northern part of the state. I expect to do very well there. It's just too early to be calling races that are this close, and I'm willing to wait as long as it takes until the last vote is counted.
Any guess what it is that may have thrown the network's computers off? What makes your race unusual?
I can't say. That's a better question for them than for me. The only poll that really counts is the one when they add up every vote of every Minnesotan who's going to the polls today, and I'm prepared to accept that verdict, but I'm also willing to wait until it comes in.
There's so much talk about momentum in campaigns. What was the momentum in the last week of the campaign? Which way was it shifting?
I felt that I had the momentum in the last week. I felt that I did well during the debates. I felt that our campaign was getting across this basic theme of turning this economy around and putting people back to work. But I was running against a very good opponent, and someone whom I've always respected, and who also ran a very good campaign. So that's really what the democratic process is supposed to be about, to give the voters a choice between hopefully two good people, as I've always believed we had in this race, and let the people of Minnesota decide tonight.
Let's see what we can find now in our state races, specifically Attorney General, Treasury, Auditor, Secretary of State. Again, my heavens, this is slow coming in. Just 8% of the precincts reported. Skip Humphrey, who's been a DFL legislator since 1972, has a substantial lead over Elliot Rothenberg, a legislator since '78 from St. Louis Park. In the race for treasurer, the Republicans had pinned their hope to get somebody in the executive committee at the state capitol, and the person of Bon Clayton, who is a financial consultant in Chanhassen. At this point, he is trailing Robert Mattson, the DFLer, 57 to 40%. Again, here, just 7% of the precincts reporting. For auditor, Arnie Carlson, has the Republican incumbent, has been trailing Paul Wellstone all evening long. Paul Wellstone, the Carleton College professor, leading incumbent Carlson 53 to 47%, albeit the gap is narrowed somewhat there. Secretary of State Joan Groh with a strong lead over Mark Hansen on the Republican side of the ledger, and the one Supreme Court seat that is up for contention, in this case John Simonette, who was appointed to the court in 1980, 65% of the vote. Jack Baker, 35%, with 7% of the precincts reporting. Back to Ann Rubenstein at David Durenberger headquarters at the Thunderbird. Ann?
Dave, Senator Durenberger just took to the podium, thanking his supporters, telling them to be patient. It may be a long one.
With their feelings about government. I'm not just talking about the national government or the Reaganomics that a lot of the experts are quizzing us on all the time, but talking about state government and local government, and then talking about the impact that government has had over 20, 25 years on the family and on businesses and on religious and nonprofit association and all those kinds of things. So in a wide variety of ways, the fact that a lot of Minnesotans used the vote this year is probably the most significant contribution that we Republicans made in 1978 and are going to continue to make in this state and in this country over the next 6 years. This was really supposed to be a one-party state for a long, long time. And I expect to be the first Republican senator re-elected in 30 years in this state. But the real significance lies in the fact that a lot of you and a lot of people that aren't here tonight in the last 4 to 6 years started breaking your pencils.